So I feel like a lot of people are confused on like why are so many Americans brainwashed by the American government, especially people in other countries. But when we talk about propaganda in American politics, I think it's so important that we talk about language because the way things are worded is so intentional. The way they explain things, the way they label things, it's all to create a specific perception. No matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, we're all brainwashed. Like if I say doggy instead of canine, you're picturing two completely different things, even though it is the same thing. Now, applying that to politics, right? Right now, everything going on with Iran, notice how the news is never saying the United States just bombed Iran. It's always the United States has carried out military strikes or precision strikes. But in reality, we're talking about a large scale military attack. Bombs are being dropped, infrastructure is being destroyed, people are being killed. Calling it a strike sounds controlled, strategic, almost clean. But a bombing is exactly what it is. And once you start noticing it, you don't unsee it. So like another example is when we talk about immigration, you'll hear things on the news like, oh, there are human rights concerns in these migrant detention centers. But what does that actually mean? Are people being mistreated? Are people dying in custody? Are families being separated? They keep it vague on purpose so that you don't feel the full weight of what is happening. Even something like the defense budget instead of military spending. Ask yourself, what are we defending? Are they attacking Americans? Because calling it defense makes it sound necessary, like we're protecting ourselves instead of projecting our military power. And this isn't random, like I said, it's intentional. So there's a concept called plausible deniability, right? Where we use language that clearly will suggest something, but if you get called out for suggesting it, they're giving you enough wiggle room to be able to deny it, right? So for example, when people say things about inner cities, they don't outright say anything racist, right? But when we talk about inner cities with a negative connotation, everybody knows they're referring to black neighborhoods and communities without saying black communities. And then when they're called out for being racist, it's like, no, I didn't say that. You said that. And that's a dog whistle. So that's how and you can see how powerful language is even in modern politics. The slogans like make America great again, it sounds positive, but it's vague on purpose because it makes people fill in their own idea of when America was great, right? Or when Trump says Sleepy Joe instead of Joe Biden or crooked Hillary instead of Hillary Clinton. Those aren't policies, they're branding tactics. But once you hear them enough, even if you don't know why Hillary's crooked Hillary, that shapes how you view that individual without needing any deeper explanation. So like when we call immigrants undocumented, it makes you think of paperwork. But when you call them illegal aliens, it makes you feel like they're not human. They're criminals, they're outsiders, threats. It's the same person, but it's a different reaction. And when you have phrases like the war on terror, who's going to oppose that? Because nobody wants to be on the side of terrorism. But that wording made it really easy to get Americans on board with war after 9/11 because so many people were scared. Post 9/11 propaganda had Americans associating Muslims with terrorism. And that fear made everything that we did to the Middle East feel justified. And here's the part they don't get into. They won't teach you in school about the letter to America by Osama bin Laden because it would contradict everything you've been taught about 9/11. And I'm not saying you have to agree with it, but if you actually read it, you'll understand that from Osama's perspective, the United States and Israel were the ones being labeled as terrorists. So now think about that. If Americans were taught that side growing up, do you think that when we did our war on terror in the Middle East, we would have had the same level of support? Probably not. And that's the point, because language doesn't just tell you what's happening, it tells you how to feel about what's happening. And once the government is able to control how people feel, they don't have to lie to them anymore about what they're actually doing, right? Because people think that it's okay.